Hi, this is the Wealth Doctor, Dr. Jeff Camarda, with 10 extended must-knows about trusts. Now, trusts are really critical planning documents that a lot of investors and even their advisors don't fully understand. One of the important reasons to use trusts is to avoid probate. And that's the basic legal process with a judge of figuring out where your assets and stuff should go once you're dead. By avoiding probate, you have a lot of critical advantages. Number one, it saves you a lot of money. In Florida, the statutory cost of probate is something like $50,000 per million. It also is a very private process. Probate is public. It's in the records, and strangers, criminals even, can go and look and see what your assets worth and what your will says. It's not at all private. Trusts keep this process private, and not only do you keep snooping ears out and save a lot of money, but you're able to avoid potential will contests. Cousin Herman doesn't think he was treated family and sues in probate court to get a piece of what he thinks is legitimately his in your estate. With a trust, all of that stuff is bypassed. It's really critical estate planning technique for most the families. They also protect against the nightmare of guardianship if you develop cognitive disability. What's guardianship? For adults, if you get to the point where you can't manage your affairs, you've got your family typically has got a petition to court for guardianship proceedings to have you determined legally incompetent to manage your affairs in your presence. It's demeaning, it's expensive, and the judge doesn't need to appoint your son, who may be an attorney, as your guardian to have the checkbook and take care of you and manage your assets. The judge can appoint his fishing buddy. So it really is something you want to avoid, and trusts make this, completely avoid the risk of guardianship. Trusts keep your personal affairs private during your lifetime and then after. You want to use a living trust, and this is really important. We see a lot of folks that have trusts that are the so-called testamentary trust from last will and testament inside of their will. The trust doesn't exist until you're dead. It's part of the probate process. The will's got to be probated. The judge has to decide it is, in fact, your last will and testament, and you create a trust and so forth. So that's expensive. It doesn't offer any of the, or most of the previous advantages I've talked about. Anyway, you don't really, I can't think of any good reason to use a testamentary trust. It's the same cost really to set up, the same complexity. Have a living trust that exists now. Make yourself the trustee and the beneficiary, and get your assets into it. This is really important. Watch our more extended classes for more detail on how to use this. Trusts are much safer and much more effective and flexible than powers of attorney. So, for instance, power of attorney is, say that you give your son or your cousin or your brother, whatever, the power of attorney. That means they've got the power to sign your name. They can sell your house. They can clean out your bank accounts. Hopefully that won't happen. But financial fraud committed by family members is a really big problem for seniors. So powers of attorney are really they're powerful, and they're also really ambiguous in that the holder of the power generally can do whatever they want. With a trust, you put some guardrails on it. If in the event that this happens and here's the income, it's much more precise in terms of detailing what your wishes are and making sure that they're carried out by the trustee, who can be sued if they don't. So really important point. Most trusts are really simple and easy to set up. They're easy to live with. Once you've got them set up, and you have mom and pop, and they're co-trustees of a joint trust, and the assets are there. And then down the road, if things happen, like cognitive issues or whatever, it clearly spells out what's got to happen and who the baton of power is passed on to. Maybe the daughter, if both mom and dad are not able to serve. It's very clean and well regulated and considered process. Revocable trust, okay, can revoke it, can be changed at any point. So I set up a revocable trust, and I'm the trustee, and I'm the grantor, the person who puts the money in a trust, and I'm also the beneficiary. So it just details what will happen if I'm not able to make these decisions anymore. And I can rip it up and take the assets whenever I want, or change it. It's revocable. Irrevocable trusts are not revocable easily. So you got to be careful about how they're drawn. If you have sophisticated planners, teams, advisory teams, and attorneys, you can build in a number of back doors to give you options even with an irrevocable trust. And you want to use irrevocable trust in certain circumstances, such as setting up to avoid estate taxes. You really have to use them, but you want to have them carefully built so that they've got the flexibility that is prudent to design in. As trustee or you're setting up the trust, typically you're going to be the trustee and the beneficiary. You have unlimited control and typically make yourself the trustee and the beneficiary, so the power and the money and the benefits are all yours. Trusts are enormously powerful, and this is really important in protecting assets and families, saving lots of taxes with their estate and inheritance tax considerations, and making sure your estate goes where you want in a protected fashion for your family. For instance, if you've got a child that maybe isn't that financially responsible, you don't want to leave them $1 million because they might blow it in 3 months. So they have access to it, but somebody else is the trustee and will give them income that they need to be comfortable, and then write a check for health care or other issues that come up that are prudent, but they don't have complete access. Really, really important and very flexible. And making sure your estate goes where you want it and in the way you want it to. And this is really important. Trusts should be entirely custom documents. I've had clients tell them, well, gee whiz, if it's an irrevocable trust, isn't it, aren't they all the same? It's like a Toyota Prius, and except for the colors, they're all pretty much the same. Trusts are extremely flexible documents. They really should be written from scratch. What are your objectives? Who do you want to benefit? How do you want to benefit them? A lot of even the boilerplate trusts we see, and some attorneys that I know call them kitchen sink trusts because they got everything, including the kitchen sink in there, like this thick. For somebody whose situation is really only that complicated, and they kind of just fill in the blanks. But make sure that you get a truly custom document that covers all the things that are important to you, which is why having the sophisticated and caring planning team is so important. Anyway, to get more detail on this critical topic, remember to like and subscribe for full access for all my short and extended wealth education classes. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, this is the Wealth Doctor.